Welcome. I'd like to call the meeting of the Pender County Board of Education to order. We have determined we have a quorum. If everyone would rise, we have the Elder Slade Freeman from the Church of Latter-day Saints of Hempstead going to open us with our invocation. If you'll just push the button on the mic.
Dear Heavenly Father, we're grateful for this day. We're grateful for the opportunity that we have to all meet here. Please bless this meeting to be uplifting and edifying, and that the voice of reason will be heard. And we're grateful for all many blessings, and we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you. Mr. Smith, will you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Yes, Mr. Chairman. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. Board members, you've had a chance to review the agenda. Is there any additions, omissions? If not, is there approval of the agenda?
Mr. Chair, I would like to make an amendment to the agenda to include item 8.5 on the information agenda, Topsail Middle School air quality presentation.
Board members, there's been an amendment to the agenda. Is there a second to approve the amendment?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Now can I have a motion to approve the agenda with the amended?
I'll make a motion that we approve the agenda as amended.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. We are at recognitions. Dr. Hill?
Yes, sir. We're going to have a big group up here tonight. So I'm not even going to try to call everybody out originally. So if I could just get everybody in the science fair, all the students that participate in the science fair that's here tonight, you come up front, please. So recently, board members, we had a science fair and was held at Cape Fear Elementary School, and 20 students are moving on to the regional realm. And that'll be next week, and from there they get to go to the state. So these are our finalists. So we want to get them here tonight, get them a certificate in their hand, get their pictures. We also want to bring up, do we have some staff members here? I know that each school has representatives that work with these kids. I emailed you tonight, come on up. We always like to put the people who work with them behind us.
What's your name? Yeah, what's your name?
We'll try to get this organized and get the names right. We have, if you've noticed, there's a few folks on the screen as well. So on the screen, we have Mason. Where's Mason? And who's the other one? Jackson. Raise your hand. There he is. Hey, buddy, how you doing?
What's your name?
We'll get your certificates to you, we promise.
What's your name? What's your last name?
So while they're passing that out, so what we'll do is, if you would, guys, if you would say your first name and the title of your project, okay? So, take off right.
Mahiro, my project is a ski lift. Electromagnet.
What's your first name and your project?
Christopher Luis. Are isopods attracted to acidic or alkaline smells?
Matthew Curry.
Fingerprints.
Fingerprints?
Reese.
Missing
I think she
Lane,
might have
Linden
yours.
Float.
Linden Boats.
McKinley Gray, blowing up balloon.
You gotta say a little louder.
McKinley Gray blowing up a balloon without blowing.
What's your name? Daniel? And what was your project?
What things can float better?
What things float better? Name?
For me, yeah. What things can float better?
Say everything.
Jordan Mejia, what things can float better?
What things float better? You guys work together?
Yes.
Absolutely.
Sloan Cheney.
Slimy. Density. So how dense things are, how big and strong they are together, right? How tight. Yes, ma'am. What's your name?
Maria and the dancing raisins.
Dancing Raisins. I think I saw those about 20 years ago. Anybody ever know? So I heard it through the grapevine. Anybody remember that? So you guys want to say something about your teams?
Dr. Hill, we have Mason and
Yeah, we introduced
Jackson.
Mason a while ago.
So Mason will need to unmute himself so he can.
So Mason, you want to tell a little bit about yours?
My project is called What Things Can Float Better.
Did you guys work together? Yeah, the whole team right here. And this was Jackson, right?
Right.
Okay. Jackson, what was your project?
I did What Things Can Float Better.
So basically, we got a whole boat building team here. Is that what I'm talking about? All right. I expect a free mold when you first turn that out. 21-foot skiff will be good. So, ladies, would you
Carol Het.
you like to talk about your team and what you're doing at your school?
Yeah, so I'm Megan Stewart from Topsail Elementary. So we had some awesome participation from third graders who I'm just beyond impressed by. We had 3 that moved on to the county fair and then 1 that's moving on to the regional. So Ms. Sloan did an awesome job with impressing everybody.
I'm Carol Het from Cape Fear Middle School, and this is Chris, and he did all the work himself, and the whole project was his invention, and he is quite the fellow to work with.
Hi, I'm LaTanya Miles. I am at Malpas Corner Elementary, and this young man right here, Hyro, is awesome. That's all I can say. He did all his stuff himself. He asked me questions. He challenged me. So I had a great time working with all the kids.
Guys, you want to try? We're going to try to get a picture. Board members,
How do you want to do it?
how do you want to do this? You want to stand up? Or?
You don't have a
A lot of folks. All right, I'll just kind of go here. Step between. You guys, there would be good. That'll work. I don't want to cover you up. You got a lens big enough for that?
All right, everybody ready? Hold up your certificates. All right, here we go. We're gonna count down to 3. 1, 2, 3. Let's do one more. 1, 2, 3. Awesome.
Nice.
Hands up everywhere.
Give a hand.
Is there any way we could get a picture of the two fellas somehow? I mean, I don't mind going and standing beside the screen. I mean, they couldn't be here, but I hate for them.
That'll be awesome.
That'd be
He does want to come out here.
Their moms are both teachers, and I think they have to be at school tonight or spouse. Then they have to be at some of the schools.
Yes, we got STEM night.
Right, so I knew they couldn't. Thank you, guys. All right, you got us?
You come on in, because they're much taller than you
Okay.
are.
Yeah, that's true. You guys smile. Okay.
Ready? 1, 2, 3. We can do one more. 1, 2, 3.
Good job. Thanks, guys.
So while you guys are sitting out, Mr. Davis, Ms. Godwin, you guys mind coming up a little bit? So, this is getting to be an every year thing, but this year I think is pretty special at Pender High School. So recently, Pender High School earned level 3 status in the school honor roll program initiated by the National Federation of State High School Associations. This is a very rare distinction. Pender High School is only the 3rd school in the nation. Let me say that again. Pender High School is only the 3rd school in the nation to earn all 3 levels in the program. By earning this distinction, more than 90% of the coaches at Pender High School have completed required courses that include sportsmanship, teaching and modeling, behavior, and engaging effectively with parents. This is a great move for our coach to improve and grow professionally and best serve our student athletes. And I just want to thank you again and again. Thank you for that.
spend the rest of the meeting with us.
I know, it's
You just gonna hang out?
Yeah. The rest of the meeting with us.
All right, we're ready. 1, 2, 3. One more. 1, 2, 3. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Good job, you guys.
Congratulations, sir.
While I've got the spotlight and we're getting everything set up, I normally wait till the end to say things like this, when I have my little bit of time, but I think this is worth it. It is CTE month, which is what I would normally say at the end. Please, we do recognize that. But we have just found out, though, we actually have our CT director, she's still at conference. Yeah, she's still at conference. But while she was there, they were presenting some numbers. And one of the numbers that were sent back that Pender County Schools is now 4th in the state. Not 4%, not 4th in the state for students earning CTE credentials.
Wow.
So, I mean, we talked about, it ain't all about just trying to go to a college and do, these are kids who are in real life credentials that are applicable today. So, we just want to thank our CTE program, our CTE staff. Everybody out there,
Thank you, Dr. Hill. Now we're into public comment. Before we have, I call it the speaker, there is a little guidelines I need to read. The Pender County Board of Education welcomes comments from parents, students, and community. The public comment period is open for members of the public, including parents and students, to voice compliments, concerns, or complaints about performance of school personnel, implementation of board policy, and the quality of educational programs and facilities. Each person is granted 3 minutes for his/her presentation. This portion of the meeting is for the board to hear matters of interest from the public. However, obscene, vulgar, or profane statements and statements reasonably perceived to be disruptive or imminently threatening to the orderly operation of the meeting shall not be permitted. And in person, we have one speaker tonight, Sunshine Toledo.
Good evening. I sent you guys all an email a while ago, if you don't remember it. It's long-winded. I'm really concerned about the discrimination that's going on. You know, not only is it a state and federal thing that we're not to discriminate, it's also in the student and parent handbook that Pender County Schools does not discriminate. And it's the board's policy 4001 that says that no student will ever be discriminated against for any reason. And when I'm talking about discrimination, you've got two groups of people. One is vaccinated, one is not. They both can get COVID. Both can spread COVID. 12 weeks after your last vaccination, all of your protection goes down 30 to 45%, even lower cases with the new variants. So it's the same group, and that's discrimination when you're treating them differently. Okay, they can spread, they look healthy, they don't, but the exposed unvaccinated students are sent home. And I'm here tonight because this is affecting my household majorly with my 13-year-old son, who his academics have gone down. He was an A student, get that B in there every once in a while. Happy, he is now depressed. He got his first C last semester. He's missing out in school. He feels the discrimination. He says, the protocol, when whoever's exposed, you all get in a big gigantic room and the adult says who's vaccinated, they raise their hands and they're told to leave the room. And then the other kids are ushered into a small little room where they are kept away from everybody with a staff member sitting outside the door until a parent can come and get them. And this has caused depression in my 13-year-old who life's already hard enough for him. So I just wanted to bring it to your guys' attention because it is your policy that you're not going to discriminate. And I'm just begging you guys to help us raise our children into successful adults. And having depression is not going to help my son be a successful adult when it's something that he's healthy. He's been sent home 3 times because somebody happened to pass him in a hallway or sit in his classroom, and he's never gotten COVID, ever. And so he's never even showed signs. And yet he's missed 17 days of school where he's been healthy Okay, healthy 17 days at home, isolated from his friends. No teacher contact, okay? They have to send an email if they don't understand. The teacher will get back to them when they can, and 90% of the time, he's told, catch up when you get back. So he's going back out of this isolation that he didn't choose, already behind his peers that have got to sit in class wearing a mask. And so I just wanted to make sure that my voice was heard on that, and just to let you guys know. I appreciate y'all. I think you guys are doing a great job. I think you guys are awesome, but this, you know, like I said, it's affecting my home, which makes me more involved. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have 4 phone-ins.
First one is Samantha Worrell.
Hey, this is Samantha Worrell, and I am calling to ask y'all once again to re-implement the mask policy in our schools. Currently, our positivity rate is over 30%. I think it was around 35 last time I checked. A week ago, it was up to nearly 50%. We have had hundreds of kids out every week since school started back, and the smart thing to do would have been to at least implement masks for the first month or so after the Christmas break, because we knew, you know, that would happen. Not only that, but lots of kids and staff are getting infected. My son was out last week due to exposure. He thankfully did not test positive, but he had no work to do. We got no instructions on, you know, anything like classwork that he was supposed to do. And I'm assuming it's because there's so many kids out. You know, the teachers can't do that, and they're very stressed out. They're very overwhelmed, and I think you guys should do the right thing. You know, it's not too late to do that, and make sure that kids and the staff are safe and in the classrooms. That is the most important thing. I feel like you guys were very negligent in just letting COVID run through our schools the way it has, especially over the past month. I really hope y'all do the right thing and vote to re-implement masks. I believe it was Beth Burns who had the idea to have a positivity rate threshold to if it went to, I think it was 15 or 20%, she said, then we would bring masks back. I absolutely agreed with that, and I would like to see her vote to, you know, reflect that thought, because we are definitely over 15 to 20% right now. Thanks for y'all's time. Please do the right thing and bring the mask back so our kids can have some sort of normalcy, because this is anything but normal, and our numbers are showing that. Thanks. Bye.
The next one is from Ashley Sartorius.
Hi, my name is Ashley Sartorius. Central office has known about the elevated levels of carbon dioxide and mold growth in the 7th grade building of Topsail Middle School since at least August of 2021. The industrial hygienist stated there was inadequate fresh air ventilation, and they needed to fix this or find the source of the leaks. Pender County has yet to address the elevated CO2 readings and continues to put a Band-Aid fix on the mold growth. Pender County School has hundreds of thousands of ESSER funds. Why aren't they being used to improve air quality? Why didn't they test the entire campus? Why hasn't Pender County Schools followed the recommendations of the hygienist? When will the HVACs be tested? Will Pender County Schools test all of the schools within the district? My understanding is that Pender County Schools hasn't tested the entire district since right after Hurricane Florence. Why is that? When will Pender County Schools put the health and safety of our students and staff as a priority?
next one is from Kara Vidadama.
Hello, my name is Kara Vidadamo. I am a mother and a registered nurse. I am just calling to address concerns about the board's decisions and how they are having a negative impact on the community and the healthcare system. I just wanted to remind the board that I am not the only healthcare professional with children in Pender County schools. Decisions about not mandating masks, social distancing, and proper hand hygiene have a negative effect on children whose parents work in the healthcare system. Healthcare professionals are dealing with a strained system and short staffing because of the burden of large amounts of sick individuals. Health professionals have to work more and longer hours. As a result, children deal with not seeing their parent, and when they do see their parent, the parent is exhausted. Furthermore, the board needs to be concerned about the trickle-down effect because of the lack of COVID-19 precautions. A fictional scenario based on real-life situations may paint a picture of the trickle-down effect that could occur if COVID-19 numbers rise. So imagine a child, perhaps your child, is out riding a bike. Your child loses control of the bike and accidentally darts in front of a moving vehicle and is hit. Your child is severely injured and EMS is needed to take your child to the closest hospital. Unfortunately, the closest hospital is full and the ambulance has to be rerouted to another hospital further away. Hopefully, the next hospital has room to treat the child. How do you think your child's recovery will be impacted because care was delayed due to large numbers of people taking up the hospital beds and because of short staffing? As decisions are made, I hope that the board can look at the bigger picture. It is necessary to have masks, social distancing, and proper hand hygiene to mitigate the effects on the healthcare system and to prevent the negative trickle-down effect. Thank you for listening, and I hope you have a good day.
The next one is from Laura Cartier.
Hi, my name is Laura Chartier. My child attends Hyde Trask, and we are hopeful that the board will do the right thing and reinstate mask mandates, especially since 2/3 of the school, including teachers, are out with COVID at this time. The numbers just don't make sense, and if the board is not going to stand up for our kids and our teachers, I don't know what other function could you possibly have than to stand up for both our kids and our teachers. We need this mandate in place. It definitely doesn't hurt our children or our teachers. It protects them. And to make it a parent's choice, the only choice parents should have at that point is reinstate the mask mandate, and the parents that don't want to adhere to it, they can stay at home with their children. Since they're the carriers, they're the ones spreading it. At this point, we need to take this as serious as it has become. We are in the 2nd+ year of a pandemic, and this needs to be shut down. Thank you so much.
That's all we have.
So, thank you, sir. Next, we have on the information agenda, we have introduction of the new EC director.
Yes, sir. We're very happy to announce that Miss Melanie McCready, you like to stand up, please, because we can get a good, she started with us on Friday. And you mind telling us a little bit about yourself and your professional background?
Hi, I'm Melanie McCready. I'm happy to be here. Like Dr. Hill said.
Come on up.
I started on Friday, and on days 1, 2, and 3 on the job, we've been visiting all the different schools, and I've been getting to know teachers and administrators and visiting with students, and everyone has been extremely welcoming and kind, and I'm very happy to be here. I have been in education for 25 years. The first 24 years were in Minnesota, and my family moved here to North Carolina in June. And I'm very happy to be here and be part of the EC department.
It's a little warmer here too, isn't it?
A little bit, yeah. They're below zero right now, I think, so.
My brother and sister-in-law live there, St. Paul.
It's cold.
You probably know how to drive on the roads here a lot better than we
I
do.
do, yeah. I was just saying to my family that I could be an Uber driver during those times, because everybody else is unsure of how to do that, and I've got it down.
Just so you know, we get a little excited and we tend to go buy lots of bread and milk.
Yeah,
Right,
I
just to be
noticed that when
prepared.
there was snow on the ground. Yeah, it's true.
Thank you, welcome.
Yeah, but in Minnesota, they can get
Do you mind
30
to
inches
give
of
a
snow.
little bit of EC background,
Absolutely.
what you did up there?
Sure, absolutely. So for 19 years, I was a speech and language pathologist, and for the past 6 years of my career, I was a special education administrator. So I was a building principal for a special needs school, and also for another school that was an inpatient residential treatment facility. I also was the assistant director of special ed for what we called co-ops. It was districts pooling their resources together, providing school psych services, speech pathology services, occupational therapy, all of those services that the smaller districts didn't have enough resources to provide themselves.
Well, welcome to Pender County.
Yeah,
Welcome. We're excited to have you here.
8.2 district COVID-19 protocols, processes, including AFS update.
We're trying to get the health department on.
Pulling health department up.
Welcome to Google Meet. Enter the meeting pin followed by the pound key. Thank you. You're joining a call with 2 other people.
All right. Carolyn, are you in there? Shirley?
I'm here. She should be signing on any minute.
Everything is done.
There we go. All right. From our end, it'll be very straightforward. Sort of process. And so you can see since winter break, in that first week specifically here, that was the week that we had no students and very limited staff coming in, and hence our numbers for confirmed positives and excluded were low. Students came back, and you can see a big rise in it for the week after that, a rise after that, dipping down a little bit from the 23rd, 29th, and then of course this past week, well, still high, and too high, I think, for our taste. You can see it tapering off a little bit, and that is very reflective, I think, what we're seeing nationwide. So, did want to just touch base on something that we had talked about previously, but I know that there are concerns about how some of the processes are occurring specific to exclusions, quarantines, and isolation. We are following the Strong Schools NC processes as they are written and as backed up by the health department, specific to if there are people that are symptomatic, and specifically how and if they are exposed. So we are following through those processes as closely as we do. The only thing that our school nurses do by board directive is exclude. And it is the health department that issues quarantine orders or the isolation orders as appropriate through the contact tracing process. So, just want to make that clear. And for those that do not know, this is in the Strong Schools NC. It is the latest update, which was January 10th. That is on pages 15 and 16. So, we have Shirley and I think Caroline on Mosier from the Pender County Health Department on the line, if you folks have any questions.
Thank you both for coming. Ms. Mosier, I have a question for you, if possible. Last night at the county commissioners meeting, you referenced the number of positives that we had in the school system last week at over 300 and some. Where do you find that number at? Because even our dashboard that shows all positives, we never see that kind of number. And now New Hanover County is...
No.
Okay.
No. The 319, and I may not have been clear on it last night, but I generally prefaced it in the fact that that is our 0 to 17 population. But granted, your 0 to 4 for the most part aren't a big number. It's just that that was 2 weeks ago. No, maybe last week, and the week before was 400 and something for that age group. That's what comes off the state dashboard. But then the schools had dropped to 80 something this past week. So we're talking about, and I still said the schools, but 0 to 17. You're still not the highest age group out there testing positive for COVID that we're aware of.
So,
once again, we don't know about home tests.
So that number that you referenced, that encompasses all 0 to 17, regardless if they're Pender County students or homeschool or charter school or no school. Is that correct?
That's right.
Okay.
It's Pender County population.
Because our neighboring school district, they're using that now as their reason, our numbers for their reason to stay masked. Also, last night you referenced that you've seen and as other countries, it's in the news now, other countries are moving to a epidemic instead of a pandemic. And you mentioned last night that once it went to an epidemic that the contact tracing would stop, except for segregate, is that what you said? Like nursing homes and those that's, most...
It would be, it would be considered an endemic, not an epidemic. And that is the way flu is classified. So, yes, the state, and I'm sure states all across the nation are hoping we'll get to that, but only the CDC will make that determination. And I know North Carolina's not going to go against CDC wishes, but once they say that it becomes endemic, our major goals will be our nursing homes and our congregate settings, but schools will not be in that congregate setting because they are not considered a high-risk population.
Thank you. And you mentioned it last night, and I'd heard it on the news from around the world, around the country, that, that was transitioning that to that term instead of a pandemic. That's all I have for you. Is there anything? Also, it was good news that you last night of the reduction in cases in Pender County is it seemed like almost half of what they were last week. That was good news.
Finally, yes. I think we're turning the curve, but we're turning it much slower than the other counties in the state.
Yeah, I watch it. I go to the CDC website several times a day and watch them update. Yeah, we're up there, but we're not the highest. We're not the lowest. Anything else, board members?
question for our attorney when it comes to this. Is there are we legally required to do contact tracing?
So, Mr. Smith, contact tracing is actually being done by the health department, which the school district is statutorily required to do is to provide contact information, meaning assist them with information when asked about who was in touch with whom in a school setting. That's your statutory requirement, meaning, you know, if the health department comes to you and says, okay, who in this room, you know, was sitting close to someone else? We have to provide that information because we are the possessors of that information. And like I said, that's a statutory requirement. And then to extend that just a little bit further, the concept being you also have the obligation to exclude kids who are confirmed to have COVID. So those are the two big statutory requirements that the school district has. And, you know, that's where, you know, everybody, you know, sort of talks about the Strong Schools Toolkit, you know, what's recommendations, what are required. Those are the two big requirements that I think get lost in the shuffle a lot, the exclusion requirement and the cooperation with your local health department to enable them to do contact tracing. And that is providing them the information and then, you know, doing whatever they asked of you to be a good community partner.
What percentage of students are taking advantage of the testing that we are offering that we voted on to do at school level?
The last time I checked, we had approximately 360 people registered to do the testing. So it's been about a week and a half since I checked.
Is there any plan, because like with a lot of folks, they might say, I didn't get it on the first go around, but I like to sign up. Are we going to promote this maybe one more time to
Absolutely.
Get the information out?
Absolutely. And I know for a fact, in speaking with Kim and just hearing some information from other nurses, sometimes when students are identified as being exposed or symptomatic and sent down to the nurses and that phone call goes home, parents want to sign up immediately, and it's literally a 30-second process to do that. So we'd much rather get the kids tested if at all possible than not.
Thank you for what you're doing. So, Mr. McPherson, I have a clarification question for your statement. So you said we are legally obligated to report close contacts to a suspected.
So if and when the health department asks for information about who was in close contact with a student who's confirmed positive based on their determination, or a student reports to you that they are positive, then you provide that information to the health department for them to contact trace. That's my understanding of your obligation.
All right. And then you said that we are required to exclude known positives.
Yes, sir.
But we're not required to exclude close contacts?
Well, see, what's interesting is the exclusion doctrine is something that's sort of been amorphous. The exclusion is to follow the guidelines of your local health department, what they're telling you to do. The thing that I will tell you you're statutorily required to do is a student who has COVID must be excluded from the rest of the student population. That goes for students and staff. As far as what your health department tells you to do about students who are close contacts, if they are recommending those kids go home, that's a health department decision. And they are following your Strong Schools Toolkit as far as that exclusion goes. I hope I'm parsing this out clear enough for you.
Clear as mud.
Yeah, I'm trying my very best.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions? Thank you, Ms. Steele, Ms. Mosier.
Thank you.
Thank you, you guys. Have a good night.
8.3, information, proposed summer learning calendar and information.
AFS.
Oh, that's right, AFS update.
What do you want to talk about? I'm just open to any questions. I'm just here to fill in. My first time. I got any questions for any of us?
Well, it's kind of hard to beat you up since you're here filling in.
Lay it on me.
Don't be Mr.
Lay it on me.
It is disappointing that the past 2 times that we've had asked for them to be here, they've sent a fill-in. So hopefully they can find the time to come see us one day. Is there any questions for?
Yeah, when, can we make a motion that we terminate their contract?
Is there any other questions? That is a question for the attorney.
That's a question, somebody, yeah, so answer it.
Mr. Hull, the AFS contract allows additional flexibility to terminate the contract at any time. As a matter of course, if we want to discuss what my advice is, if that is the path the board chooses to take, I would recommend we do that in closed session about options available.
All right, well, I'll go ahead and say I want it on the next agenda, specifically their contract. So, okay?
Do you know about how many employees y'all are running short now? I know everywhere nationwide's running short, but do you know how many gaps y'all are trying to fill?
We still trying to fill gaps. We only got 89 employees. We still running short because of the COVID situation with people being vaccinated and not vaccinated. You know, people staying home for 5 days versus 10 days. It's still like, I don't know, it's just like up and down. You know, you got Topsail side, as far as I know, over the break, we had a handful of people just quit. They, they put in 2 weeks notice, they didn't come back.
Okay, thank you.
And it's not just AFS that has that issues. We have trouble getting subs, we have trouble getting teachers, we have trouble getting bus drivers. Airmark has trouble getting cafeteria staff. And the cleaning service we have where I work, one person is having to work 3 shifts because they can't find. So it's not just AFS.
I mean, I'm out all day, all night, and I was told by my bosses not to even do that, to do the opposite, but I have another boss that I have to please too, which is y'all guys. I don't care what they say on the other side, I'm pleasing y'all.
Mr. Jeffrey, I know you, so I know what a great job you do in the county and how you keep it going, but I don't think the other board members might not know you, so can you talk a little bit about what you did before you were doing what you're doing now?
I started out working 4 hours at How to Trash. They liked it so much they hired me on full time. I went from day porter to supervisor, from CFO. From there, I guess they liked the way I handled Florence, and just helped out throughout the community. They hired me on to assistant manager through GCA, ABM. And from there, I just try my best. I just do. And not only that, I'm just saying this. The reason I do my best is my kids go to this school, and I try to get everybody on board where I'm not the only one just caring about it. I want everybody to care. It's not I'm just gonna look out for CFO because my kids go to CFO. I'm gonna look out for every school that I go to, and anybody know me that I go beyond.
In the event that we ever change.
Right. Well, you were also one of those that during Florence, he was one of the ones we heard about, you guys, that was out there all the time, at all hours, keep making sure everything was okay. And I just felt like sometimes we hear these stories, but we don't have a face to what we hear. And I wanted them to hear all of that. So don't think that we're coming off on you personally.
No, I know,
you know that.
I know. And honestly, I believe if you can change the company how many times you want to. It's just the people. If everybody don't have their heart into it, it's just gonna fail. So,
in the event that it gets changed, we hope you stay. So
I know, but it's the people that stand. I told Mr. LaFawn that. I would have took the head job, but the people, I wouldn't. I just can't deal with people.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to be clear though, this is my request to have that on the agenda for next meeting. Okay? Regular board meeting, not a, you know what I mean.
Annandale School Historical Marker, proposed summer learning calendar and information.
Ken does not want me to do
He got a shout out to CFO if he wants to drop the mic, please.
Lord. Dang.
Thank you, sir.
Sure, what the You don't get it.
I don't feel special anymore. I see
No.
what you.
No, I still love you. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Just wanted to give a quick update and share some information on where we are with summer learning. Really, the big impetus this is that we are trying very hard to be well in advance and well ready before the summer gets here. Last year, if you remember, the state passed in the spring a law requiring summer learning, which put us really at a disadvantage. We felt like really from April all the way through, we were trying to play catch up. So the instructional service team, the coaches, and we've been reaching out with the principals. We're trying to get well ahead of it this time. And so just want to take an opportunity to kind of share with the board our vision, our dreams, where we are. None of this is finalized. This is all very much draft, but it kind of lays out our ideal. We started with looking at last year. So for example, we were able to serve just over 1,000 students last year during the summer learning. We had a little over 200 teachers involved, almost 70 different IAs, plus we had site administrators. One of our successes, I think, when we look back at the high school specifically, we were able to either recover or provide new credits of 1,171 initial recovered credits through our high schools. For our KA program, obviously the emphasis was on the reading and the math as prescribed by the state. We did have several teachers that earned a bonus through the state for having students grow during summer learning. So that was kind of our starting place for where to go. So what you have before you is kind of a draft of what we've been talking about. And again, this is really just for information at this point. We haven't officially moved forward with anything. Our big goals, obviously one is just to continue to support our students. As we tell everybody all the time, it's not just been 3 years for the Southeast. We're talking 4 straight years where we've had interrupted learning for a number of our students and staff. So we're still wanting to address that. And while I think our schools have done an extraordinary job, not only with, for example, the CTE and our graduation rate and a number of other things, we still know our students aren't where we would like them to be if all things were normal. We all still have to meet legal requirements for Read to Achieve, as well as some DPI grant opportunities. We know we still need to service our extended school year students, and we are well aware that because of the hiring issues that we've been facing, we'll have compensatory time that we'll need to make up for any of our students that have DC services, that we've just not been able to hire anybody. So those have kind of been our goals, not to mention just trying to engage our students in Pender County, give especially our middle school and high school students, an opportunity to stay engaged over the summer. The big thing we've been looking at is trying to come up with sort of a theme throughout the summer. So really what we're looking at is June, a heavy focus on the summer learning, the remediation, credit recovery, that immediate response that we would like to do. That would include our Read to Achieve camps that we are legally required to do. Kind of model a little bit after what we did last year, full day, really provide reading and math instruction, try to provide some enrichment. One of the pieces of feedback we got from both staff and students was they did like the idea of having at least one period that was kind of an elective encore type opportunity, plus the reading and the math opportunities. Then July, shift to more of an enrichment. So that's when we utilize our camp invention. Ms. Lofton is working with a number of people looking at 21st century partners, our community and schools partners. And then August, one of the things that we've not typically done, but the state has awarded some small pots of money to help us out, and that would be for summer transition. We've done a little bit with that in middle school, thanks to community and schools, but we'd like to really look at a broader opportunity. So looking at our rising K, rising third, rising sixth, ninth, and then working with our rising seniors. The state provided some opportunities to any districts that were interested in that, and that's actually been something for several years we really want to do a better job of. We know our sixth grade results are not really where we want them to be. That's true across the state and the country. Some of that is the transition. We also want to make sure our seniors who have not had a consistent year yet in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade, certainly do whatever we can to get them set up. Start our 9th graders off well. Again, they're still struggling through middle school. They do not have a normal middle school yet. So the other thing in August would really be a workforce development. The state has provided some money for us to really try to get kids engaged with community apprenticeships and internships, utilize our CTE teachers to maybe provide some camps or some opportunities based on things like robotics, engineering, some of the things that are very popular with our students. So June would kind of be focused on the intervention. July is enrichment focus, and then the first 2 weeks of August would be heavy on the transition. So that's kind of the first page, just kind of let you know. Prioritization, we can't force any students to come. Even last year under the state guidelines, we couldn't force them. But we did try to prioritize, seeing how many staff we would have, so we'll kind of have to work through that. But then kind of work our way down with prioritization. So something similar to that. And then wanted to provide the board kind of a draft timeline from now till the May. We did send out the staff interest form. As of Monday, we had 327 responses, a few duplicates in there, but that's pretty much correct. Of that number, 42 IAs, approximately 30 EC teachers, 6 nurses, a large number of counselors. We sent it to everybody, so counselors, certified staff. And that puts us roughly on par with where we were last year. There are a couple of duplicates where someone said they both an IA and a driver, so the 327 is probably a little bit high. So it comes pretty close to what the interest was last year. And then the final page, just to share with you, sort of the funding sources. We sort of ranked them based on when the money goes away. And unfortunately, Ms. Chestnut's not here, but she and I talked a little bit about this. So first and foremost, she always emphasizes the state money that ends in June 30, and if you don't spend it, it's gone. So PRC 069 or at-risk money is generally what she utilizes for us. So last year, for example, we had a lot of months of employment that went unused. I have not talked to her. I imagine we'll have some of that again. So she always says that she's going to use that first. We also have the Read to Achieve money that comes from the state. That obviously can only support 2nd and 3rd grade teachers, but obviously we'll utilize that. We have some remaining of the gear money. It is one of the many little pots of money that has come out over the last several years. We can use that for instructional materials, for the counselors and the nurses. We can pay for folks like that. That's due at the end of September of 22 this year, so we obviously want to make sure that we take advantage of that. We were given, again, some pots of money to help with our summer bridge camps and the workforce development, so naturally we'll make sure we utilize that. And then, if all else fails, we have reserve money in the ESSER 3 from the very beginning, because we knew we were going to want to try and probably need to try to do something similar for our students again. One thing I did want to let the board know, this is something to think about, and curious for any feedback. The state law required last year that we implement a bonus, but they left open kind of how you would dispense that in terms of how often someone worked. The feedback we've gotten from site administrators, from personnel, from HR was the bonus was extraordinarily hard to manage. We tried to figure out if you have to work every single day to get the whole thing. But what about people who were sick for a couple days, or someone who said I could work all but a week? People only wanted to work half of it, so how much do they get? So it really got kind of confusing. And one of the recommendations that we received was, rather than try to do a bonus, roll what that bonus might have been into hourly pay. Therefore, however much you work is how much you get. And that was something that seemed to make a lot of sense, probably a whole lot easier for finance and payroll and HR to track. So we did talk to a couple districts. We kind of gotten a sense of what we think other districts are going to pay. Of course, at this point, it's all theory. But what we were looking at is similar to last year's hourly rates, but bumped up a little bit, thinking about what would a bonus be if you kind of rolled it into an hourly rate. And what we were looking at for certified teachers and certified staff in general, would be about $40 an hour. We're hearing anywhere from 35 to 40 from our neighbors. Or if we have a few staff that might be slightly over that, so we would use your hourly rate plus 10%, which was the same kind of rationale we used last year if we had anybody that was at the very, very top end as a certified staff member. For the assistants, $25 an hour or their hourly rate plus 10%, same thing we did last year. It's a little bit higher, but again, that's the bonus kind of being wrapped into it. Bus drivers, I have to talk to Mr. Smith. We looked at kind of a similar rate, again, with a bonus not being there, but higher hourly rate. The 11-month staff is always a challenge because we can't pay them twice. They can't work their 11th month of June, but also receive this. So last year, what we tried to do was provide some additional hours beyond their normal day. We'd like to do that again. A lot of them do spend some extra time helping to plan. And then our site administrators, which we've not finalized the number of sites and locations yet, but provide for our site administrators. And then look at substitutes. We did pay some substitutes. We had some staff last year that did not want to commit to every day, but said, hey, if you call me, I could come in. And so looking at that. And then the last thing that we talked about that we thought was, while we hate doing paperwork for the state, I think it was really helpful, which is to put in some reporting outcomes for the board. Things like the number of students served, number of credentials earned, the amount of staff that works, feedback from teachers and staff, but to give the board some outcomes of how it went and what the feedback is. So that's an overly generalized summation. I also provided a calendar for you. It kind of lays out the sites that we're maybe looking at, especially in July and August, how the summer would kind of roll out with the different the programs. To this point, this is something really we've been talking with our coaches and principals, and just kind of wanted to share with the board at the very beginning of February so that as we roll into March and April, we can make any tweaks, come back with kind of a finalized plan for the board to consider. But we just wanted to try to get ahead of the game for you and share a little bit of information on what we've been working on so far.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, sir.
Is there any questions, board members? Good. 8.4, Annandale School Historical Marker Discussion. Mr. Smith?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, you'll notice in the packet, we've been provided with information that we would like to proceed with this. As all of you know, we had a few months ago a group from the Annandale School who attended there back from 1956 in that time frame and talked about their memories and asked us to recognize that as being a historical African American school. And by doing some research with the state of North Carolina, it would appear that they would fall in all areas that we could, without any cost, because it would be a historical marker if approved, that they could put a historical marker up there recognizing the historical significance of that school. And so that's why I asked for that information to be put in our packet for this month so that we could look at that. And if the board decides to take action and proceed, I think it would be good for us to have, to be behind that and say that this is something that we do support, and it's not just one group in the community, but it's the board recognizing that. And I believe that, I know the old Virgo Elementary School, I'm not sure if the Historical Society put that there, but I know there's a historical marker already there recognizing its historical nature. So I don't know if anyone's here that could speak to that, Mr. Fon or anyone that knows about how the markers got there, but.
I'm not sure how the marker actually got there. It was not a Pender County Schools initiative. The Historical Society took care of that. But I do know that when Hurricane Florence blew it down, that we were responsible for repairing it and putting it back up.
Yeah, the alumni, the C.F. Pope alumni took care of that. And yes, when Florence knocked it down, you guys were right on it because it's just laying there and it's just that. So we really stayed on top of that. And you had to have some special company do something to it because the way it knocked.
The iron was so heavy that the regular stand that it's on wouldn't hold it up. So we had to send it off to an ironworks company to have it basically redone. And it was a long process, but It's
Right,
back up
and
now?
that alumni really purchased a lot, like they took care of making the, nice glass shelving in the lobby there and had, lots of relics from that time put up in there, and, we tried to find a cheerleader, I asked everybody to try to find a cheerleading outfit, because I thought it'd be really cool, because we had football and basketball stuff, but we didn't. But yes, that alumni was where they bought the benches out front, if you look, you see C.F. Pope and Cicero on some of the benches and all of that. So yeah, they did a great job with all of that. That's where that came from, Mr. Smith.
Mr. Smith, there is an Annandale marker outside of the old entrance to Topsail Elementary School. I don't think it's an official historical marker, but there is a sign on the building, excuse me, outside of the original front entrance of our school. That it's kind of on the side of the building now, but I don't know if it's a school system sign or I don't know where it came from. It's been there for a long time.
If I could, for C.F. Pope, the sign there was made, purchased from the alumni. It's not a North Carolina like you might see in other places. So therefore, the state of North Carolina did not repair that because it wasn't a state of North Carolina plaque. I believe what you're describing actually is a state
What
of
I'm
North
just,
Carolina.
what I'm describing is with the historical markers, they've got like a criteria, that's in our packet. And it would meet the criteria if approved by the state, and then the state would be responsible for maintenance because it would be a state-owned sign, so it wouldn't be added expense to us, in doing that. The reason why I asked for it is because, like I said, the group had come and asked us to recognize the historical nature of Annandale School, and I thought this would be a step in the right direction for us to do so.
Any other questions, board members, for Mr. Smith? Thank you, sir. 8.5, air quality.
Mr. Chairman, if we apologize. So does the board want to put this, because I don't want this to be just a one-man operation, but does the board want to put this on the agenda for next month? What do you, now's the time, because I don't want, we've listened to it, and the only thing this would require is the board chair to sign off on it and have someone, central office or whoever, that would be willing to write up something to be able to submit or contact the people that, I think Kenny Keith was one that came and spoke to us to see if they would be willing to join in together on this. So it'd be a joint effort between us and the alumni.
Any comments, board members?
Okay, thank you.
8.5, air quality.
Good evening, board members. Been asked to give an update on the air quality and remediation that's going on at Topsail Middle School. To fill you in on the timeline, right before Christmas break, the principal made me aware that there was a concern from a parent. Seemed like it was a legitimate concern, so on December the 20th, which was the week of Christmas break, called the hygienist to see when they would be available. They could not get there that week, so we set up testing to begin when the kids got back from school January the 11th. Did not want to test the school when it wasn't under load. But over Christmas break, we had our energy management company set up data loggers to run data on the temperature and humidity of the building over the break. That data showed that the humidity and temperatures were within normal operating parameters throughout the entire time of Christmas break. On January 11th, hygienist came and tested in the 7th grade building, the gym and cafeteria. A week later, she gave me a preliminary report. She didn't have all the data yet, but she gave me a preliminary report that said that there were elevated spore counts in parts of the building, specifically the hallway near room 719 and also in the gym. She said the counts were not high enough to warrant an immediate action, and recommendations would be made in the official report, which would be completed as soon as she had all the data analyzed and could compile the report. I asked our Pender County Maintenance Director to contact a remediation contractor to have on standby so that we would have them ready to go as soon as we got the report, because so I didn't want to have to wait any extra time trying to procure a contractor. On January 25th, the official report was delivered by the hygienist. January 26th, remediation contractor met with Pender County Schools Maintenance Director to create a scope of work and a project schedule based on the recommendations from the hygienist. And that work started immediately with the contractor placing air scrubbers in the building. Also, there was an elevated level of CO2. The hygienist recommended that teachers be allowed to teach with their doors open, which we went ahead and cleared. We'll talk to the fire marshal about that and see what he says with the doors propped open, but for the time being, they're teaching with the doors open. We also made the decision, it was not a hygienist recommendation, but we made the decision to move students from room 704 to one of the available huts because of that, for some reason, 704's CO2 count was way out of line with the other rooms. We contacted our HVAC controls contractor to come in and take a look at our controls, see if there was something that we, what we could do there, and he made recommendations on that. From January the 26th through February the 6th, the remediation contractor worked after school hours and on the weekends so that we could keep the kids in school. Again, the hygienist did not recommend that the kids not be allowed to come to school. So that, and the HVAC system was physically inspected by our staff, and we found that one damper was stuck, and this was not showing on the computer diagnostic, and that was repaired. We also made adjustments to the scheduled run times. We increased them. Airflow dampers were opened 24 hours a day, and exhaust fans, the times that they run were also adjusted. We scheduled, at that point, we scheduled the hygienist for retesting. The hygienist determined that additional testing that she had recommended for the gym could be done at the same time as retesting. So yesterday, hygienist came for retesting. We walked with her. We went with her throughout the entire building. The retesting included all areas previously tested and also parts of the main buildings. I asked that parts of the main building also be tested, which were not included in the original scope, and we did an intensive inspection of the gym. Our next steps, we'll follow up with any new findings from the hygienist, of course, when that report becomes available to us. Cheatham and Associates is doing a district-wide assessment of all of our HVAC systems. We met with them on Friday to discuss these issues with them, and also put, they will be boots on the ground at Topsail Middle School tomorrow as our engineering and HVAC consultant to evaluate the entire system. We're going to ask them not just for the long-term needs of the system, which is on the ESSERS program, but also any short-term fixes they might recommend that we could get done immediately. Also, recently our construction manager has completed certification to take air quality samples. That's something that's been in the works. We've asked that, while we're doing this, he has been taking samples along with the hygienist. We actually send them to the same lab that the hygienist uses. And we're going to compare his results with the hygienist results, and that will allow us to be a little bit more responsive. We won't be stuck on a hygienist schedule. Most of the time when I call them, it's a week or so before they can get to us and even take samples. So if we have an issue, we will now have the capability of having the construction manager take the samples, send them off to the lab. We won't do any detailed analysis of them because we're not qualified for that, but we can take a look at outside air versus the inside air and see if there's any discrepancies there, and we could be responsive to getting someone in to respond to that. That's everything that I know. That's where we're at. Any questions?
Any questions, board members? So right now they're saying that it is safe for students, what you're saying in summary, to put it in layman's terms, because I know there's a lot of stuff said, is it safe for students to be in there?
Yes, sir.
And if somebody comes and says that they're having issues based on whatever levels that have been presented, what course of action are they being recommended to take? What can be done? I mean, if somebody says this is making me sick, I mean, what is the recommendation?
We take those reports from parents and students pretty seriously. We will go out and make an inspection on ourselves and look for any signs of mold or any signs of anything that could cause a problem. In this particular case, the student had been sent home for COVID quarantine and tested negative, which, and was still having symptoms. So we felt like that was the nurse at the school, and we felt like that would be a legitimate reason to go and test.
Has there been a large number of students out because of this issue?
I don't know that. I don't have that information.
Okay.
Okay, so just to break this down a little bit further, whenever you get a certified, and I guess this is an industrial hygienist?
Yes, ma'am.
Who is certified to do air quality testing. You send them in, they take all the testing, they take it back. They not only give us their numbers, but at the end of the report is also their recommendations on how to remediate
Yes, ma'am.
whatever situation is going on, whether it be mold or CO2. And we have done everything that the industrial hygienist
And then some.
offered, and then some.
Yes, ma'am. We have completed everything that was in the recommendation from the report, and we've gone a step further in some cases to make sure that we get all our bases covered. And I'm really looking forward to comparing the test results that we took, our air samples that we sent off to the lab, with what the hygienist did, so that I don't want to turn our construction manager loose and say, hey, go do testing if her numbers aren't similar.
I do like the idea that our construction manager now can be a first line of defense. If we do get an area that is suspicious for anything, that we can send him in now and at least get some preliminary numbers if these numbers match up with what the industrial hygienist had. Okay, thank you very much, appreciate it.
You're welcome.
So one thing, Mr. LaFont, looking at the pictures, some of that mold was visible. We have a culture where we report that for cleaning, and I know we're having cleaning issues right now, but some of that was pretty obvious that was mold growing on the wall and growing on the ceiling tile, and those things we could have caught earlier. The HVAC system is an issue, but the visible stuff is easy.
In our, and to address the ceiling tiles, anytime that there is even just a water spot on the ceiling tile, our custodial service is supposed to change it out. They're also responsible for the walls and anything that is visible. Has it been reported to us? It has not. We have worked, and that's one of the reasons why we're meeting with them tomorrow.
Any other questions, board members? Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Board members, we are now at the consent agenda. You've had a chance to review the consent agenda. Is there any questions, concerns? If not, do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Action agenda 10.1, our monthly required mask protocols vote.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that Pender County School continues mask optional for this upcoming period of time in which we have to vote on.
I second.
There's a motion and a second to remain mask optional. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? 10.2, 2022-23 calendar approval.
Chairman, members of the board, what you have in front of you is a request for you to review and approve the calendars as submitted, specifically Pender Early College High School and Pender Lee, specific to the vote for the traditional schools. The calendar committee and all the gracious assistance of the parents, site administrators, input from principals, district administrators, etc. We'd like to recommend that draft number 3 for the traditionals be approved. Or that's what we would like to recommend that all of you approve. That being said, there was a lot of input and communication with instructional services because as you heard earlier with the science of learning and the required professional development that's going to be necessary to go along with all of that, we needed to parse out and spread professional development days all across the year rather than just put them on the front and the back. So that's why you see where they're placed, where they currently are as optional days. And that will not then just affect those participating in that professional development, but we will be able to offer district-wide and also site-based professional development across the board. So it's been a very collaborative set of circumstances. The one caveat to kind of bear in mind with draft number 3, and that there are 2 early release days, one in February, one in April. If we do that, that's going to give us basically no banked days. Now, that being said, under the current legislation, we've got 5 days allowable for remote instruction due to COVID, facility emergency, weather, things of that nature under the current legislation. And Mr. McPherson can correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think that I am. But it's okay if I am. So we basically the state has allowed us to bank days, 5 bank days for remote instruction, which is what we had planned for all along, which is why we have the generator, why we wrote the grant and got the generator in the first place to be able to roll and push a lot of that stuff out anyway. So just something kind of keep in mind. There's not a lot of wiggle room in calendar 3.
So, board, as a point of clarification, those 5 bank days, those exist for 21-22. The General Assembly has not spoken yet about the 22-23 calendar as far as remote instruction. It is anticipated by some, but it's just like legislation of any kind. You have no idea what it's going to look like until it's actually done. So that would be my word of caution on the 5 instructional days. But it's been, at least for this year, that was the anticipation.
Well, draft 2 only had 1 day also, right?
It had 1 day. It had 1 bank day. Correct. Again, when we're fitting in all of the professional development that is kind of consistent with what we need to do with the science of learning, or the science of reading. Thank you. And all of the other constraints of when we can start, and then we also want to end on or before Memorial Day, and we want to get in our instructional hours and kind of get all of that and keep our bell schedules as much the same as possible. Take all of that, those constraints, and it really kind of limits on our flexibility, what we can build into a calendar. So that's just something to bear in mind.
Mr. Bloomberg, quick clarification. Based on your recommendation, it seems as if the traditional calendar, you do not want to vote this month based on the executive summary, or you are asking the board to approve one of the 2 options?
We are, okay, so you're asking me to make the recommendation.
What do you want?
What we would like is to recommend, per the calendar committee's wishes, calendar draft number 3 for traditional. And then Pender Early College and the Pender Lee as submitted.
So calendar number 3, so February, tell me about it again.
That would be an early release day. So basically a half day. So The concern from a number of people on the calendar committee was that the time between January and the March spring break, that February was this like dead month. It was just like all pedal to the metal. And so with no break at all. And so we've traditionally had some sort of work day in February anyway, just like we have coming up this next week. So the concern was because that was such a long time between having any breaks, that it would be an opportunity to get the students out and for us to have an early release day where professional development could be provided as necessary and appropriate. So there's, with that circumstance, it's one in February, an early release day in February, and one in early May, excuse me. I'd said April, but it was early May. Does that make sense?
Principals are good with that? Principals, you are okay? That it wouldn't be a work day? That it would be a half-day release? I'm just asking because I know how brutal that is on administrators and teachers not to have, so it would be a half a day. Okay.
Number 2 has no days.
And number 2 has no days.
Doesn't have half a day. It's just-
It's a brutal time.
But again, you have to bear in mind that when you start putting constraints on it, we really start to limit the amount of options we have when we're adding in the PD days, when we're starting the Monday closest to the 26th, which ends up being the 29th, so a little bit later on, that we want to end on or before Memorial Day, that we need to get our time in specific to instructional hours. Every time we do something like that, we whittle the amount of options we have. Now, we can go beyond Memorial Day. I mean, that is an option.
Hey Cindy, can I ask what you're thinking? I mean, were you thinking that work day should be a full work day and then maybe not a half day in May?
I'm thinking that that's a really long time for you guys and for kids, and given a work day each month is pretty nice when you have that opportunity just to get the kids can be out for the day and everybody can just refresh, because that's a long time. Y'all know that better than I do.
I think it was a half day in February and a half day in May, so what we would do, make it a full day in February and no half day in May?
I'm just asking. I'm asking
Well,
what you guys
that's why I was
think.
asking too, what you were thinking when you asked. Or what?
But if you guys are good with half a day, then, I mean, that's what the calendar committee is saying, so. Just don't wanna get next year and hear all about, oh, it's really rough and da-da-da, and, but I'm fine. I'm good.
Just have to have a board meeting.
I make a motion then, based on recommendations that's been presented to us by the calendar committee, that we approve what was presented as a request for the option and for the early college group as well.
So that's draft 3, correct?
Yes, sir.
Traditional. Have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion?
I know y'all don't just free willy throw dates on the wall. There's a lot of work put into this. And so I know the reason why I want to go ahead and push this through, vote on it, approve it, is because, I mean, you're the guys on the groundwork, the principals, everyone else. And so I just want to say thank you, because I can't imagine how hard it is to.
They're the ones that gave us all the input.
Well, that's what I'm getting at, is I mean, I can't imagine how hard it is trying to plan something like this out, make everyone happy. So thank you for what y'all are doing.
Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Now we're resolution of support for the My Future NC attainment goals. I'm not sure who has this. I don't have names.
It's a group that's working quasi with the state. They've asked if the boards, they're doing this across the state, and they're asking each board if they could support the resolution that's in your packet. the counties around us have mostly signed off on this. It looks like positive stuff, but it's the board's pleasure.
Are there any unfunded mandates attached to it?
It's all kind of, just good with it. We support what you're trying to do.
Because it looks like a lot of kumbaya to me, but I'm saying.
Is there a board member that wants to read it? Whereas My Future NC is a statewide nonprofit organization focused on educational attainment and the results in the cross-sector collaboration between North Carolina leaders in education, business, and government. And whereas the My NC Future NC Commission has concluded that North Carolina should have a goal that 2 million North Carolinians will have high-quality credentialed and post-secondary degree by 2030. And whereas Pender County Schools is committed to Pender County Schools goal. Well, this wasn't filled in, so this is going to take a minute. Pender County Schools, along with other key partners, will help advance the educational attainment of students in North Carolina by Pender County Schools' mission. Whereas Pender County Schools agrees that North Carolina faces a gap between the projected needs for citizens with high-quality credentials of post-secondary degrees and attainment of those high-quality credentials and post-secondary degrees. Now it be resolved that Pender County Schools supports the attainment goal of My Future NC that 2 million North Carolinians should have a high-quality credentialed and post-secondary degree by 2030, and Pender County Schools, along with the leaders in business, education, state and local government, and community organizations, will continue to foster partnerships to achieve the goal. Adopted this 8th day of February 2022. There's the resolution. Is there a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed?
No.
We have 3 yes, 1 no. Comments from board members. We'll start with Mr. Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to first and foremost say thank you for the warm hospitality I've received this month, visiting 6 of our schools on the east side and having lunch at some of those schools. Always great to see those kids, and I had lunch at one of the North Topsail Elementary with their pre-K kids, and one of the kids asked me, was I going to be new in their class? And so I think sometimes maybe that's why I need to go back and relearn some things. But I do want to thank every one of the principals that when they come, just letting you know I'm there just to stop in to say hello, and that you're doing a great job and appreciate what you're doing. I want to focus really on 2 things that I imagine it's probably going on at the other high schools, but over at Heidi Trask, while I was there visiting, UNCW was there giving a presentation and helping Hispanic students that English is not their first language actually be able to do college applications and work with them. And so it's good to see us being able to partner with one of our local colleges and helping our population out. And so we're glad to see that. Second and finally, wanted to recognize one of our schools. I've mentioned them earlier, and I know others are raising money. But if you ever see a principal and you drive up to a school and she's got saran wrap wrapped around her on the flagpole, you know it's probably Jill Robinson. And that's what's happened. And so I guess that's what's going on now. But she's also planning on, are you doing the Ice Bucket Challenge Friday?
Yes, that's the rumor.
That's a rumor? Okay. So this is because your school was raised $25,000?
27.
So, okay, I apologize. $27,000. And what did you raise that for? A vacation for Dr. Hill, or?
It's for the sauna out back for the staff. No, it's going to be for educational support.
Okay. And I know a lot of you other principals, I know when I was visiting Topsail Elementary and all, I saw that they were doing fundraisers and all. So I know the board members, I can't speak for them, but I believe they would agree that any way we can support you guys, I think all 5 of us would say we'd support you 100%, except for the ice bucket. But it does look.
Come on, you know you want to come on.
Oh, I might. But I do want to thank you guys. It does look really good seeing our teachers and and others excited about education. So thank you for what you're doing.
Ms. Fontana?
If I'm not mistaken, is this National Counselors Week?
It is.
This week, that's what I thought. If you have a chance this week, make sure you send them just a note or a thank you or something. Being a former principal, I will tell you that my counselors, all of them were some of my right hands and my left hands. Myself and my other APs, we couldn't have done it without our counselors for years and years and years. And there's some amazing counselors that we are so honored to have in Pender County Schools. I know that my kids think a lot of them, and I know that lots and lots of families really benefit from our counselors in our county. So if you get a chance, make sure you say a special thank you for all they do. That's all I have. Thank you.
Mr. Hall?
I don't have any.
Ms. Burns?
I'll pass for this one. Thanks.
That brings us to the end of the meeting. Oh, no, I'm sorry. I have just a couple of things. So our speaker today, our in-person speaker tonight touched on something that I agree with 100%, that it does appear that we are singling out students in school. And I know that's not our intent, and it's not our goal, and it's not our choice. But I do agree 100% that is my opinion that of what is happening also. Also glad to hear that our HVAC retrofit is finally started. That's seems to be a lot longer process than what we thought it was going to be. We look forward to that. So everybody listening, we are working on our HVAC system. I mean, that's a big discussion in the community that we're just sitting on a bunch of money and not doing anything with it, and we've got mold blowing through our school. So that is in the works. Mr. McPherson, the Pender County Parks and Rec has asked to try to enter into some kind of agreement with us on leasing buses. If you could research that, there's other schools and districts in the state that do that. And let us know your thoughts. And that's all I have. Comments from the board attorney. Oh, I did have, I forgot what it was.
Mr. George, one of the things you sent me a question about this week, and we'll just play like this as a foray into my comments, if that's okay.
That'll work.
Is about when is it appropriate for a school district to have a remote instruction day? And so I want to remind the board and the community of a wonderful session law that was passed. It was Session Law 2021-130. And it only applies to this school year, and it allows school districts to have a 5 days of remote instruction or 30 instructional hours if you do not receive a good cause waiver. Okay. So let me back that up a second. A good cause waiver is was created for counties in the western half of the state who are heavily impacted by snow every year, and they get more flexibility when it comes to instructional days than the rest of the state. It's a fact of life for them. It's been created over time. Pender County does not have a good cause exemption along with the vast majority of the rest of the state. Therefore, there was this option for the board to include 5 remote instruction days in your school calendar for severe weather conditions, energy shortages, power failures, or other emergency situations, and they may use those towards their required instructional days and hours. Okay, so those are the reasons why you can use those 5 instructional days. The only other option that is available to school districts to declare remote instruction days are COVID emergencies. Okay, and so when we talk about COVID emergencies, it's a very specific, limited, temporary remote instruction situation where you do not have the staff to have school. And so in those situations, if that were to occur in such a situation, a public school unit is to report any shift to remote in-person, a shift from in-person instruction to temporary remote instruction to the Department of Public Instruction within 72 hours and shall return to in-person instruction as soon as personnel are available or the required quarantines are completed. So this is like a parachute when you don't have bodies. Outside of those two situations, remote instruction is not authorized under state law.
So, we couldn't do a virtual day every week.
No, sir, Mr. George. That is not a authority that this board or any board in the state of North Carolina would be able to do who is a public school. And anyone to argue otherwise would be, not understanding the history of school calendars in the state of North Carolina. Two quick other things I want to bring to the board's attention. I'm sure you did see that the North Carolina Supreme Court struck down a redistricting maps that were drawn by the General Assembly. And those maps are being returned to the General Assembly, which means there will be a session to redraw those maps. That vote was along party lines. The only reason I bring that up is it also happens to coincide with a veto by the governor of the primary date being moved. So you have two things that are very much pushing elections in a very tight time frame. So you have a General Assembly who is going to be forced to redraw the maps in a short period of time and a primary date that has not been moved. So I would encourage you to pay attention to that moving forward, because like all school districts in the state of North Carolina, you are heavily funded by the state, and how state and congressional races turn out is important to all parties. The next thing is, and I don't typically talk about the United States Supreme Court, but with the retirement of Justice Breyer, there has been an opportunity for a justice to be replaced on the U.S. Supreme Court, which has folks like myself very excited about it, to see who the replacement is. President Biden has went on the record saying he is going to nominate an African-American female justice. There are several candidates who've been floated. One of the names that was floated but has not been as high as others is Anita Earls, who currently sits on the North Carolina Supreme Court. Do not believe she's not in the top three as far as any predictions I've seen, but that's something interesting that doesn't happen every day. And the last thing is more pertinent to the education arena, and it is the fact that as the General Assembly is coming back to town to do their business, I would encourage the board to reach out to your legislatures and not only thank them for what they do, but also encourage them as they're going through the business of legislating, just as you guys do, to any needs, anything specific. And I would also encourage the public to do that as well. I think it's important to communicate your needs to the folks at John Street, because that is one of the things they really, just like this body, encourage folks to do. So with that being said, Mr. Chair, those are my three comments.
Thank you, sir. And I had one thing that I forgot to mention. There's been a lot of work by Dr. Akins and his team for a JROTC program at Topsail High School. And hopefully it's safe to say that Topsail High School has been awarded a Coast Guard JROTC program starting next year. So that is great for that. So thank you for all of your hard work. They had to find place, they had to find the space. Mr. LaFon's crew helped with that. And
while you're bringing it up too, how many are in this country?
So it's either 6 or 7. There's one already in the New Bern area. There's one outside of Charleston, and there are 2 in Florida. And then this go around, there were 2 units that were awarded. Topsail High School is one, and there's one in Delaware. Those are the only 2.
that's great. Thank you for all that hard work. That was kind of thrown on him early this year. I guess it was early school year this year.
All right, we did it.
Sorry about that, Dr. Hill. That's your turn. Report from superintendent.
Yep. So, Counselor's Week, we got that, and CTE month. Don't forget that, and I'll trump you next week. It's Celebrity Bus Driver Week, so it's North Carolina Bus Driver Week. Don't forget that. That's a big one because they touch everybody. What I always tell them, if they don't run Nothing happened. So, thank them for us, make sure you're outreaching to them. Appreciate everything you're doing, thank you, Student Services, for this week and everything your folks are doing with the council and department. Just appreciate everybody in this room and everything your staff is doing. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Is there a motion to go into closed session?
The Pender County Board of Education will enter closed session, subject to advice from the attorney pursuant to NC General Statute 143-318.11A1 and A6, to prevent the disclosure of confidential personnel information under GS 115C-319, and to consider matters relating to initial employment of an individual employee. The board will also go into closed session pursuant to General Statute 143-318.11A3 to consult with the board's attorney in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege, to consider confidential student matters as provided in NC General Statute 143.318.11A1 and the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act 20 U.S.C. 1232G and NC General Statute 115Z-42. This closed session is also necessary to, are we talking? Okay. This closed session is also necessary to consider and give instructions concerning lawsuits entitled Burns Fisher versus Pender County Board of Education et al., state and federal.
Thank you. You had the latest one. Yeah.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Contract or proposed for acquisition.
Oh, okay. Let's see, I'm on.
And just add, this closed session is also necessary too.
And this closed session is also necessary to establish and instruct staff or agents concerning the terms of a contract or proposed contract for the acquisition of real property as provided by NC General Statute 143-318.11A5, and to consider and give instructions to the board's attorney concerning Burns Fisher versus Pender County Board of Education et al.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We are now in closed session. Thank you.
I make a motion that we approve the human resources report and the addendum.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
15.2, closed session minutes from January. Is there a motion to accept those and keep them confidential?
I make a motion that we accept the closed session minutes from January and to keep them confidential.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Board members, we're at 15.3, legal services. We were offered two services from two different vendors. What is your pleasure? I can't make a motion.
I have, oh, go ahead.
Make a motion that we continue our current legal services with Brandon McPherson and the law firm that he represents.
Palmer Spruill. Board members, you've had the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? And the most, and the last is on the list is adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Is there a second?
A second.
All in favor?